Well, batten down the hatches, folks, because the new Nintendo Switch 2 leaks are here, and a lot of Nintendo YouTubers are milking this stuff without really looking into the backstory of these situations, because if you've been anywhere on YouTube within the past couple of days, you'll probably see stories about a big Nintendo Switch 2 dev kit update. We, of course, are now talking about another system coming to Switch Online that we've been talking about for really years as coming to Nintendo Switch Online. So I want to go over all of this stuff with you guys. I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news or a Debbie Downer, but if it's rooted in reality, then, I'm just going to do it. I also want to talk about something else that not a lot of these channels, I don't think any of these channels are actually talking about. That's a way bigger story for Nintendo that people aren't really realizing. So if this is your first time on the channel, welcome. We just hit 496,000 subscribers on the road to 500K, but let's make some Nintendo fanboys mad today. So here we go. Big update on DevKit 2.0 upgrade. DevKit 2.0 upgrade. And this is coming to us from good old Nash Weedle. Nash Weedle is literally on the level of somebody like Zippo as far as it comes to these Nintendo Switch leaks. The only thing that Nash Weedle has ever really gotten right was Metroid Dread being a thing, but if you're an old head, you would know that Metroid Dread was a thing years ago. It was supposed to be a Nintendo DS game, so for Nintendo to make a new 2D Metroid game, it would probably make sense to give it that name. Now, I guess I will give a little bit of credit for that, but like everything else has been just substantially wrong. Supposedly Nintendo's working on a Bayonetta trilogy for the Switch 2 because the last Bayonetta 3 barely sold 1 million on 140 million systems out there. That definitely needs to be a high priority thing. Supposedly Nintendo was doing a Switch VR headset. What was that, Labo? That rumor actually came out after Labo. But Nash Weedle, he's got the inside scoop here because I don't know. The Nintendo Switch 2 development kit receives an important update. Now the tools allow us to go one step further. I can confirm that this direct information from a developer. It is not speculation, opinion. I think the update is in reference to rescaling. Now the tools allow us to go one step further. You know what that reminds me of? One step further. That reminds me of when me and my friends used to essentially emulate like CKY and Jackass and stuff. And we were jumping off of this ladder into some bushes. And my buddy Adam went one step higher than I went. And we did the whole filming thing. And he was like, I'm Adam Badass and this is one step up. That's what that reminds me of. It's nothing. One step further than what? What are you actually talking about here? You literally are talking about nothing. You're talking about one step up. We don't know what the dev kits are. Not a lot of people do know what the dev kits are. So what does that mean? You think it has to do with this is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous. You talk to a developer who had a system. We're going to talk about why that's a false ideology in just a little bit. Do not worry, because I have lots of things to say, which gets us into the part where no Nintendo YouTubers are talking about this actual story. But this means nothing. This means nothing. Absolutely. I could say, hey, the Nintendo Switch 2 dev kit, it's got some secret sauce. Are people going to talk about that? Are you going to make a video about that? You should, because I'll take the free publicity and stuff like that. But we don't know what we're talking about here. One step up from what? There's no baseline to be going on with this. Absolutely ridiculous. But hey, that Nintendo news is dry out there. These Nintendo YouTubers, they got to cling on to anything like a freaking dingleberry. What are you going to talk about, Princess Peach? I mean, you can. It's an okay game, I guess. And then here's Nash Weedle back again. Nintendo seems to have GameCube emulation ready. It's recently updated a patent based on this system, which joins other recent patents on the Cube console control. Now, here's where things get very interesting, because you could read this, which I'm not even sure where this is from, but in Game System, according to Further Embodiment, the game information storage medium contains at least 2 emulator programs, each of which correspondingly emulates 2 types of second game machines having different architectures from each other and from the architecture of the first game machine. The game selection program selects any number or any of the emulator programs according to the game program of the game title selected by the player. Blah, 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 blah. There are some crude drawings here. The Legend of Zelda series. Okay. Super Mario series and figure-in wall. Okay, so then we have some crap here. And Deary. We still have Zerda. what is this? What is this? And here's the fun thing about this. So you can easily look at new patents that Nintendo has proved or has been approved of and whatever. I've looked at like the past couple of weeks of patents, and none of this was here. None of this was anything. This, as far as I know, and look, you got this dude here. What's the patent ID? The source. They don't give it. They never give it. They never give the actual source. All you have to do is drop the patent link. It's a public patent. Anyone could see it. Anyone could look at it. Anyone can deduce the same information on it. But this individual, Nash Weedle, the analyst Day Leaks, he won't do it. Or they won't do it. I don't know if it's a he or whatever. But it's like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Somehow this, having multiple emulators, you could run multiple emulators already on Nintendo Switch Online. You have Nintendo 64, Super Nintendo. You have Game Boy. But like, these are all different emulators. So what is this? And where does it say anything about GameCube in this? Nowhere. So this is the stuff that has Nintendo YouTubers buzzing right now. A person with a piss poor track record saying these claims. Basically, I talked to a developer. They said the dev kit is one step beyond. It's a new level. It's got Pantera on it. But here's the big problem with all of this. Look at what Nintendo is doing right now. Okay. Look at what just took place and look at what we learned from it. I, of course, am talking about GDC. Games Developer Conference. The mantra, the mindset was that coming out of Games Developer Conference, GDC, we were going to have all of this new information on the Nintendo Switch 2 because someone was more than likely bound to leak it there because developers talk to each other face to face. There's no sort of paper trail or any sort of, evidence of them saying it to someone else. But we are removed from GDC, almost a week removed from GDC, and we've heard nothing. We've heard absolutely nothing from this event. Now, supposedly some NDAs were signed for the Nintendo Switch 2, but when does that stop anyone? It does seem like people know about what the Nintendo Switch 2 is, but based on my own research, it's not necessarily about what it is, but it's about when it is. Look at what Nintendo has done this year, allegedly. Supposedly, behind the scenes, they delayed this system until 2025. Now, some people are like, well, what was to say that it was ever going to come out in 2024? And I think that's a plausible thing to think, but the main thing is, look at the software for this year. You have remakes, remasters, smaller titles like Princess Peach. Like, where are the actual like larger games? And I'm not saying that this is going to be a down year or whatever, because I'll be interested in playing some of these games like Luigi's Mansion 2. Even though that $60 price point is just ridiculous, at least I can write it off on my taxes. You can't do that. But like, when you look at the software lineup, it definitely feels like a transition year to where 2024 would have been the year, but then allegedly Nintendo delayed this until 2025. The problem is, I don't think people necessarily know when Nintendo is going to launch in 2025. They might know about what they're planning to do, what the system is, how it's going to be capable of things, but if you don't have a time written in stone for when you're going to release the system, why not? Like, what's going on here? You have had plenty of time to prepare for this system. Realistically speaking, this system has been outdated for quite a while. Yes, there have been great titles for it. Yes, there has been great software for it. Yes, there are a lot of games that are still coming out that look fun. But most of these games aren't first-party games, which is what tends to sell on Nintendo platforms. I don't know what the situation is behind the scenes, and that's the sort of the thing, is that nobody really knows what the situation is behind the scenes. But we're nearly in April, so 2025 is seeing more and more realistic for the launch of this system. But if developers themselves and companies themselves don't know exactly when this system is going to launch, how much, effort are you going to put into bringing your games over there? Now, I know what you're saying. Well, RGT, you have all these smaller companies saying, oh yeah, our game's going to be on Switch too. So don't they know something? Not really. You're basing it on the assumption that the architecture of the Switch 2 is going to be similar to the Nintendo Switch, or that your engine is supported in whatever the Nintendo Switch 2 is, because most game engines are going to be supported, and most game engines are supported on the standard Nintendo Switch. So it's not a crazy thing to say, well, we're targeting our game to be launching on the Nintendo Switch 2, because yeah, more than likely it'll be compatible with it. How effective it will be, how well will it run on there, who's really to say, because you got to get one of those dev kits in your hands. But something just seems a little bit off with all of this. Something just seems completely off with this. And when these stories, leaks, kind of come out, like, I can't take them seriously, because it just seems like it's just very quiet. Like Nintendo's just asleep at the wheel right now, and they're maybe there's a little bit of hesitancy, and I mean that does make sense when you look at the Wii to the Wii U situation. They probably should have been more hesitant. They're obviously not trying to have a situation like that. I don't think they're going to have a situation like that, but are there expectations that maybe won't be reached with this new system? Like, a lot of people seem to think it's a foregone conclusion that this updated system is going to outsell the Switch. I don't think it will. I think it'll sell great, but I don't think it's going to outsell the current Nintendo Switch that we have. It was lightning in a bottle. It was the right system at the right time. You had the right social elements happening as well. But I say all that to say this is all bullshit, rumor, talking out your ass from someone who's been wrong a million times. I understand it's dry on these Nintendo streets. The supplier hasn't come in with the product, with the information, but like, I don't know, man. And I could be wrong on all of this. Hey, you know what? If I'm wrong on something, it's okay. I'm not above saying this, but like, bro, there's something weird going on here. I think there's something very weird going on here, and I'm not sure that we'll ever really fully know, because eventually the system will be announced and this will all be just forgotten about. But I think something a little strange is going on here. The fact that we got nothing out of GDC, that should be very telling for a lot of people. Let me know what you think of this in the comments section down below. And I mean, you could say that the people at GDC were just too busy standing outside screaming because they're frustrated. My job's hard. I'm a game developer. Like, yeah, it's a tough job. A lot of risk of, like, dying or something. Like, what is wrong with you people? Like, yeah, it's probably time consuming, but hard. You make video games. This should be a fun job for you. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. Hit subscribe if you're new. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Later.